target out of their periphery. And then I don't think that they're looking at their dot, but I think they're just moving around, and as soon as they see their dot directly on a target, so they're going from looking at the target in their periphery to looking at the target and the dot directly at the same time. And they're shooting, when they get that confirmation from directly seeing their dot and their target at the same time,
no one can withstand me.
I think that's when they're taking their opportunity to shoot. So yeah, I don't really like the dot. Another thing about the dot is also you don't, like I was talking about earlier, you don't get any range tracking. So here's my headshot with my dot. Not a headshot.
Maximum strength.
So if I want to get a headshot, I have to up that a little. Right there, maybe. That's still not high enough. Right? That's still not high enough to get the headshot. That is. So that's high enough to get the headshot, right? So let's think about that. If I'm using a dot and I want to get a headshot, I need to aim like fucking what? You know, on my monitor, like 2 or 3 centimeters. Probably 2 centimeters, a little bit less than an inch, maybe. Like 2 centimeters above the target, right? To get the headshot. And do you know how
I'm a well-oiled high-power machine.
aiming that high, having to aim that high to get a small little target, to get a headshot in a game, aiming this high is so hard to do. And
I only needed one eye.
if you do, you know, if you are using a dot and you are trying to get a headshot with Torbjorn right here, and you know you're gonna start here, we're all gonna start here, that's fine, right? While you're doing that, you have to track 2 centimeters up, and you have to do it perfectly. And here's the thing, it's like tracking just straight while you're in a game, moving around, getting shot at, trying to shoot the headshot, moving this up 2 centimeters perfectly without going to the left or the right a little bit, like going left or going right, throwing your crosshairs as you try to go up. That's so hard to do. That's so hard to do right there, to go straight up. And it's not, also the thing about this game and other video games, like you don't really want to track perfectly up and down. You don't really want to track perfectly left and right. You always want to track angles. And you know, part of the reason that is because like you're always moving and the other team is always moving. And so like if I'm moving right and you're moving left, if I'm moving southeast down into the right and you're moving northwest up into the left, like I don't want to track up and down. I want to track diagonal, right? And so that's really hard to do with the dot, and the reason why I prefer the crosshairs is because when I'm tracking, I'm tracking in the direction of the axes, or I'm traveling, or I'm tracking at an angle that bisects the crosshairs. So like if you're just looking at the crosshairs now at their normal 0, 90, 180, 270, I'd be tracking the bottom right angle. So basically shooting into the bottom right angle. I would be tracking 45 degrees from southeast to northwest. If these were at the 090 right now. And so yeah, I'll still track into the corner of the crosshairs, but I'll also rotate the crosshairs because I don't want to track at 45 degrees. I want to track more at like fucking probably, yeah, I usually like to track like somewhere between 10 and 20 degrees. So like if I'm tracking bottom right to top left, I probably want to track along like a 12-degree angle, something like that. So I'll rotate this, and so that's getting pretty good right there. We'll try 12 right there. And yeah, so I have that 12-degree tracking angle if I follow the east-west, but then I also have I have those tracking angles if I track along the axes, but also I can track into the corner of the axis as well. And so I'm actually going to reduce those because I'm looking more at tracking into the corner of the angle right now and not tracking the axis. And so lately I've been kind of liking the dot in the middle of my crosshairs, but just to show you what I meant earlier, when I'm not using the dot in the crosshairs, what I'm going to go ahead and do is make the center gap the size of the headshot I want at the range that I'm expecting. And so probably go like kind of like that. 13. That one. This is like just a little bit bigger than I actually want it, but that's kind of okay because, like I said, it forces you to adapt. These could be turned down by 3 probably. And the rotation, center gap is going to come down. So after I shortened the crosshair length, I was like, then I realized that I actually do want a smaller center gap. Right there. Opacity, I haven't talked about opacity. I like the dark opacity for the aesthetic and for the focus, because it just helps automatically draw my focus. When I started customizing my crosshairs, I thought I liked the opacity down, so more translucent, I guess. And I still think that that is a viable choice, low opacity. Low opacity crosshairs. It depends on how good your passive focus is. So like if you've got a really good passive focus, you could turn down the opacity. And that's how I started, because I thought I did have a good passive focus. But then when I tried turning the opacity up, I was like, oh, this is way better. And so I think that I have I think I need the opacity because it automatically resets my attention without me having to think about anything. And so it kind of does the passive focus for me. Dot size, dot opacity. Is there anything else I want to do to this? Yeah, I'll probably leave it here. I don't think this is perfect, but whatever. Yeah. Okay, you see how I'm using the bottom right corner? I'm using the bottom right corner to fucking track that bot on the platform. And look, I'll use the bottom left corner to track him now. Bottom left, bottom right.
I'm hotter
So-
than a furnace.
If he's on my left side, I'm using the bottom left corner to track, like that. And if he's on my right side, I'm using this right there. You see that? You see that bottom right corner? That's my track right there, that bottom right corner.
I'm at maximum strength.
And so for these headshots that are far, right here, that I'm not getting, so I shoot that body shot. I've got the crosshairs on the head, but I saw that that was clearly a body shot. So because the way I like to play Torbjorn is that as I'm aiming at this bot, I'm going to be moving left. I'm going to be moving left while I'm aiming. And so if I got a body shot and I'm moving left while I'm aiming, what I'm doing now is I'm tracking along the north-south, right? And then once I see that crosshair right there, I know I've got a good hit. So the north-south tilt, the rotation on that north-south, it really helps me aim while I'm moving left. So I'm shooting.
I'm a well-oiled high-power machine.
So as I'm left on the analog stick, I'm basically aiming the right analog stick in the northeast direction very gently.
I'm hotter than a furnace.
And then so if I'm moving left to right, if I'm moving right, as you could see, I'm taking that bottom right corner to track. So as I'm moving right, I'm keeping that head right here, right there. And so, you know, you just gotta think about the angles that you typically shoot at, and you gotta think about like the angles that you typically track at. Like, this is my typical tracking angle right here. Boom, 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 boom.
No one can withstand me.
I like to move to the right and shoot left and slightly up. So like, as I'm moving left, I like to shoot in that direction. And as I'm moving right, you can also use the corner as you're moving right. Because like, as I'm moving right, I want to track in that direction, into the corner. But also, so I can track into the corner of the crosshairs, but then I can also do what I was telling you before, and that's I can use my north-south as like, I want to line that north-south up right on their body, right? And so as they're moving right, I'm matching their body with my north-south, right? But then as I'm shooting, I'm like, oh, I'm not getting headshots, and so then I just track a little bit up like that, and just use that crosshair right there. So yeah, that's Torbjorn, and that's how you use all the different crosshair customizations for each character. Every character, you know, I wouldn't say every character like needs their own special crosshairs. If you find a crosshair that works really good for you on all heroes, I would definitely use it until you get tired of it, or if you find yourself in a rut. And then like once you find yourself in a rut, try changing the crosshairs and see if it changes for you. So this Zenyatta crosshairs I'm using right now, kind of experimenting with. I'll do that in the next video.